Hi, my name is Vaidehi Zala, and today is November 9th, 2021, and I am recording my Week 10 reflection of working on the van project. So for the last 2 weeks, we've been working on the same assignment. We've been trying to make the van flooring. However, we didn't want to just go on to using plywood because we knew that we were going to be making mistakes, and cardboard is always a safe option because we have so much of it. And so we basically had to make cardboard pieces of that match the perimeter of the van. So in the center of the van, there should be a rectangular area by which we would measure from, and the directions state that the outer edges of the rectangle to the wall is the area that we would be responsible for creating the cardboard templates for. And they are irregular in shape, which was really true. And so we had to divide the outer edges into 12 by 12 sections, and then we just had to assign which parts would be given to which teams. My team has 4 people in it, and that means that we had 4 parts to do. Each one of my team members worked on a separate part, and we were able to all finish up our pieces relatively quickly compared to everyone else. And this was because we were able to have a group discussion because we noticed that our communication wasn't the best. Ethan, he has been known to kind of be the odd one out whenever we're discussing because Amanda, Tony, and I are already friends. And so Mr. Hicks acted as a facilitator, and we all sat down and talked about what was going on. And this discussion really helped because it helped us understand each other better and how we can behave to make the other person feel comfortable. Now, with this talk in mind, Ethan has become a lot more of a participator, and he's shown with his actions that he's feeling a lot more comfortable around us because, we took time out of our day to talk to him and talk with everyone else to figure out what would be the best way to approach him and talk to him. And so today is the deadline, finally, after working on this project after working on this assignment for 2 weeks, and and there were 16 parts in total. We were given 4 of them, and now that we are finally done, I would like to show the process of us getting there and how it went. So let's get on to that. One of the first things we had to do was to create a grid system in the engineering notebook and CAD drawings, utilizing the measurements that we took from the van. And here's a picture of my first drawing in the engineering notebook. There are 16 workable pieces, and they are lined up near the perimeter. This sketch is incorrect because it doesn't have the new measurements that we found. This is one of the mistakes that we kept on making, and it has been a continuous theme. And we really need to work on this. And I think one way that we can do this is for every group to measure so that we don't just follow one person's measurements. And by doing this, we can have more credibility in the measurements that we all find and agree upon. Now, this picture has the correct and accurate measurements that we redid. And I did most of my alterations on Inventor because it is a lot easier to just edit dimensions than to recreate a physical sketch every time. And this was also more efficient because we were learning something new every day that we met. And that is why I only have 2 sketches in my engineering notebook, but a lot more on CAD. So this is a picture of my CAD sketch before. The grid was implemented, but my measurements were wrong. However, once we redid our measurements, we figured out that the wheelbarrows weren't the same length. We also rediscovered the workable area from the end of the rubber instead of the actual end of the van near the back doors. With all the new measurements taken into consideration, the CAD design was redone. Here is the new and correct interpretation of the van floor. If it is compared to the original, one of the main differences is that the front of the grid starts from the rectangular holes that were created for the passenger and driver doors instead of the seatbelt poles. And then here is just a top view of the grid on the van floor. So this might seem complicated, but it really isn't. According to the instructions, we first created a grid with all the workable pieces as a team, meaning as a whole class, and this was recommended. We decided to choose them randomly. I thought of this way, and I thought that it worked because it ensured a fair way to figure out which teams do which parts. I thought of the idea with random letters on the 16 pieces and then asking people to choose a letter to figure out which part is theirs. If my team would have followed this, we would have gotten the first two on the left, one piece on the wheelbarrow on the right, and the last piece on the right. My team was given 4 parts because we were the most populous group. However, the rest of the class didn't like this method, so we asked our teacher, Mr. Hicks, to just give us a number, and we were given number 1, meaning the first 3 parts. Everyone got 3 parts, and it was easiest to just do 3 pieces next to each other than all over the place. So the picture here is what we finally decided to do. It is the template that we followed, and I did 1, Anthony did number 2, Amanda did 3, and Ethan did 4. After we delegated our parts, we all went into the van and we created the grid system with masking tape. This was really helpful because it acted as a visual for everyone to follow. This was the original piece that I had created. I was the first one to finish out of all my peers, and I was really excited to be done with this project that had been ongoing for 2 to 3 weeks. But from this picture, it is clear that the tape and poor cutting skills weren't up to par. The irregular piece on the top was supposed to be all that I had to make because most of our class had decided to make our part go out to the first ridge. However, as the process went on, we decided to change it and make our parts go to the third ridge. That is why I had to add the additional parts on the bottom and bottom right. Next, I also had to change my part because Mr. Hicks said that we had to create a solid piece, meaning one solid piece instead of separate pieces that I taped together. In this picture, it is easier to see how the dark brown part was created first, and another part had to be added to accommodate the new mark that was made to indicate how long the part needed to be. The first to the third ridge. The bottom right part was then added in the picture to fill up the space circled in black. The piece that was assigned to me was very difficult to make because there were a lot of aspects to it. It has an incision to let a black sharp piece go through it. It can further be noticed in another picture. The incision was created only on the 2 out of 5 pieces in my part because the black sharp box on the seatbelt pole only touches it once half of my part is put into its position. Here is a picture showing the piece that I created fitting into the grid perfectly. The following pictures are going to be pictures that show measurements with a ruler for scale. My piece is 1 inch in depth, like how the instructions instructed. It took 5 pieces with good corrugated cardboard to make my part 1 inch in depth. I utilized sharp scissors, a box cutter, a ruler, a marker, and tape to make my piece. As the area I was assigned to create a part for was very irregular, so was my piece. From left to right, it is 18.5 inches long, 12 inches long, 14.5 inches long, and finally 11.75 inches long. I included multiple measurements on top of my piece so that I don't have to pick it up and move it around to recreate something similar for the laminate or flooring that we decide to add. And just another picture showing the width instead of the length. The following pictures are going to be pictures of our pieces fitting precisely in the van like a jigsaw puzzle. So as you can see from this picture, mine and Tony's pieces fit very precisely and very well, and it is clearly shown here. This means that our measurements were correct and we can go on to making a real flooring with plywood with our prototypes made out of cardboard. And then finally, here are some pictures that show off our class's progress. Now that all 16 parts have been completed, the irregular perimeter has been accounted for, and a big rectangular piece can be added in the middle. Once we do this, all of the workable area will have been prototyped with cardboard first. And this marks the end of my Week 10 reflection. I hope that we can continue getting up and persevering because we made a lot of mistakes these last 2 weeks. And although we were frustrated, we did show our determination into completing our assignment and our project. And I'm really happy and excited because now that we finished our cardboard prototyping, we can actually go on to working with wood and other materials.